Every year we take time to reflect on the events that have passed us in the world of geekdom. This year is not without its high points and low points, some for better, some for worst. The time is now to discuss those successes and failures and put forth our hopes for the future. And probably a few rants from Opu. Coming up on the East Coast Geek Podcast. Welcome to episode 119 of the East Coast Geek Podcast for Friday, December 30th, right before the end of the year, 2017, where we bring you all the latest news on comics, movies, and gaming, and our post-thoughts on everything that's happened over the year this episode. I'm your host, Jeremy, and with me, as always, is Opu. How you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I don't rant too much. It's very just passionate and insightful.
Passionate and insightful. Write that down, people.
I'm like a passion fruit.
Yeah, sure. So it's been a busy past couple of weeks. You had family in town, and my wife had me do a few things at the last minute, so it precluded us from doing the episode last week. But I think we'll be all right. It's been a fun last week because all the cool stuff we got for Christmas, right? Yeah, I mean you. You raised your eyebrow. Yeah, didn't you get anything good?
No, well, yeah, I mean, we got some pretty good stuff.
Right?
I got a dice tower, and I got some dwarven dice, but I won't show you the dice tower working on this because it's loud, especially with these bad boys.
Right.
So they're very heavy. What else? Some other stuff. I got some clothes, of course. Am I wearing my socks? I'm wearing my socks.
I got mine.
But not those PJs. My Muppet PJs are an old Christmas present, actually. And this is a Christmas present to me. If you're a fan of Psycho Stick, a little backstory on this is that this guy went on their page and was just like doing this big rant, I guess trying to troll them. And they kept saying, "Thanks for listening to all of our music," and with these such passionate responses. And he made this quote saying that 100% music, garbage music and garbage fans.
Oh
and they said, "Well, thanks for the idea. We're going to make that into a shirt." So I bought it.
Nice. Yeah. I got a nice new sweater I'm wearing and a Stranger Things T-shirt. So, among other things.
You're not going to show it off for the class? Come on, stand up. Come on. Look at that. Look at that hot bod.
Right? The hot dad bod.
That hot dad bod. Everybody loves the dad bod. That's totally in right now, right?
Yeah, at least for us. Other than that, the big family gift was the Switch.
Yep.
Amazing.
Which you've totally taken for yourself.
I'm gonna have to beat the kids up for it. So, but Super Mario Odyssey is amazing on there, as well as all the other stuff. The Mario and Rabbids game is great. And Splatoon's alright. It's never really been my thing, but the kids like it, so that's fine.
I really enjoyed the first Splatoon. It was such a different type of shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really fun to me.
Yeah.
And it's it has more fluid momentum to it, because you can dive through the paint or ink or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Obviously, I don't know what Splatoon 2 brought to the table.
It's got a cool tutorial that explains. I feel like it explains everything better than the first one did. So,
oh my stars and garters, Miss Henson! You're gonna get us a little hot under the collar with those kind of comments.
Between that, I have Zelda that I haven't started on yet.
Breath of the Wild. Oh, that's so good.
I'm trying to hold out on it because I kind of want to finish Mario because my penchant for not finishing my games. Otherwise, a lot of other great stuff. Those were just the honorable mentions, I guess. This awesome new chair that you can't see; it's invisible. Look. Anyways, yeah, it was a great Christmas. The kids had a blast. So I mean, that's the important thing, right?
Oh yeah, so that was the best. Is my daughter just happened to wake up at like 5 in the morning or 5:30 on Christmas Day. Obviously, she's not even a year old yet, so she has no clue what Christmas is. So she woke up at 5:30 in the morning, and I was like, well, heck, she's up. Let's get everybody else up. So we got up, and she's just sitting there like, what is all this stuff? And I'm trying to get her. She knows how to open presents, or at least tear the paper.
Right.
But I couldn't get her. She's sitting in my lap. I couldn't get her to open anything. So I was just opening it for her. And I had like this play set built, or Santa Claus had this play set built for her. But I'm going to take credit for it because I'm selfish like that. And that's all she wanted to play with. So and she did eventually circle around to the other stuff. And at least it wasn't one of those things where, like, she just wanted to play with the wrapping paper. She actually played with the toys, so that was one of my worries.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, my kids tore through their stuff, but they had a blast, and Santa Claus upgraded Christopher's computer. But he's loving that now, since he has I'd probably say it's on par with yours for what we had you put together, Mitch. But otherwise, yeah, it was great. It was good times with the family. Lots of family time the past week or so. But between that, listening to all my shows, collecting more information on things we talk about, and finding out some cool stuff like things that I'll pull up on the Marvel deal if you remind me about it when we get to it. The second Marvel deal, not the first one. So without further ado, we might as well just go ahead and start in on things, right? Yeah? No? You got anything else?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else for the band.
Okay.
Oh, so real quick, you know that little satchel you've got? And I mentioned like the leather one, the pouch thing.
Oh yeah.
The band purse. Yeah. So I mentioned it offhand. I said, Jimmy got this thing. It's pretty cool. My wife, I guess, actually remembered that. The one thing I tell her that she remembers, but I love it. So she got me that.
Oh, that's good.
So it actually has come in handy last few days, especially with it being so cold. I could put my hands in my pockets and everything.
Right.
When walking into work and not having to worry about, like, why do women complain about carrying around purses? This stuff's amazing.
Great. Wonderful, dude. Wonderful. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I like my bag. I switch between that's actually Christopher's, but between that and then my single strap backpack that I have that it's got plenty more room that I can actually fit D&D books into.
That's been my one thing is like I'm like, man, I could totally smuggle some of my books in, but that would be a bad precedence for my team. So I need to keep from bringing in any non-work books.
Right. All right. Well, the first big thing that we noticed in the past year, and we brought it up time and again throughout the year, and it'll be interesting to see what the trend is next year. But the decline in comic sales and the overinflation of forced distribution, is that what you want to call it?
I mean, what else would you call it? Bullying? Mandatory distribution? I don't know what else you would call it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just is it not just Marvel, right? DC's doing the same tactics, or
no, DC is killing it, absolutely killing it.
Oh, okay.
There's a couple of comics where they've kind of tried to force in like the diversity thing, and not like in an organic matter.
Yeah.
Like with like when Superman died, right?
Yeah.
In the 90s, 4 Supermen showed up. There was Cyborg Superman, the Eradicator, Steel, and what was the other one? I can't remember who the 4. It was like 3 or 4.
Okay.
But it was Eradicator. Who else showed up? Anyway, Steel was obviously John Henry Irons was a black man, right?
Okay.
And he kept telling people, "I am not Superman. I am not taking Superman's place. I am just honoring his memory." So he would repeatedly. So that felt like more organic than somebody just saying, "Hey, I like this lady's name or this guy's name. I'm stealing his code name and identity, and I'm running around with it."
Right.
And then people that have known the characters for years are saying, instead of saying stuff like they said to Steel, like, "Hey, you're doing a good job honoring Superman's memory. He would be proud of you." They're saying, "You're better than established character here for 40 years has ever been after one fight." Like, really? Because that guy that you just said she's better than has saved the universe by themselves multiple times. Countless trillions, quadrillions of life forms out there. But, this one stopped a mugging. So she's better.
Right, right. So, between that and the declining sales, it's kind of given the comic book industry a little bit of a black eye. And it's kind of incredible that it's such a polarizing event for the two big comic industries, or two big comics giants. DC's movies suck, but their comic sales are through the roof. Marvel's,
and let's put it this way, and let's also add this: the animated movies are still good or bad, like good ideas, like the love scene in The Killing Joke, and the implied rape in what was it, Batman and Harley.
Yeah.
Their animated series are still on point, even though it's still 99.9% Batman movies.
Right.
Which is getting old.
No, it's not. We need more Batman movies. We need more Batman games too.
No, thank you.
But anyways, you've got DC putting out garbage movies, but their comic book sales are fine. Their animated are fine. Disney Marvel putting out excellent movies. Like I think by the end of November, Thor put them at like 6 or 7 billion for the year. Mm-hmm. Not to mention that they just released Star Wars, and that's already at $750 million. I
thought it was at like 700 million last I heard.
Yeah, 750 million is $750 million.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, like I know, but I'm just saying that.
Yeah, the last time I looked it was 700. That was I think including Christmas Day sales. And by all accounts, this weekend I'm sure they'll throw more money into the bag. So they're looking.
I guess we should note that its sales have been declining faster. Their ticket sales have been declining faster on this one.
Yeah.
Than previous ones.
The newness is worn off. This is what happens when you release a Star Wars movie every year.
That one, and they've, we're not going to get into this episode, but they've made a lot of really, really, really strange calls with this last one.
Yeah, and that's neither here nor there. The comic sales, though, it kind of sucks because it doesn't just affect those two companies. It affects everybody in the industry because the smaller companies depend on those larger companies to draw in the crowd, and then they're like, oh look, here's the Sonic comic, and here's look Archie, what's Archie doing, you know? And that's the thing. Well, I'm just saying in general.
I get what you're saying.
Nobody's going into the store to buy Archie comics.
Because people will see these multi-million-dollar movies, like Spider-Man or whatever, then they immediately will go to a comic book shop and be like, hey, I want to pick up those comics. Then they're like, oh, hey, this one looks cool. Or they'll go to the counter and be like, hey, what else do you recommend that's kind of like Spider-Man? People say, oh, well, Invincible, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Or just random people in the comic book shop might say, hey, you might like this one.
Right. And that's the thing is they're doing such a great job with those, but they're not capitalizing on what they're establishing. They're falling short in the comic section, and it's hurting everybody's sale, not just their own.
Right. And so right now the opposites have people are going to go see the movies. And they might go to the store and they might pick up 1 or 2 issues and they say, wow, this is really crap. Where's Peter Parker? Where's Tony Stark? Where's the superheroes we just saw on the movie theaters? And not to mention that people that have been reading comics for 30 years, that are the ones that keep buying comics, are saying, you're not publishing the characters I want to read about.
Right.
I'm not going to buy this other comic. Especially when there's no conflict for them, when they don't do anything wrong. They have no flaws. They don't have any failures, because that's part of the hero's journey is failure. You try to do the right thing, but you constantly fall. You don't just come out the gate at level 100 and everybody else is at level 20 and you keep increasing, get better, and everybody just praises you even though you're literally doing nothing.
One Punch Man.
Well, that is different. It's built around that whole aspect.
Yeah, I know. It's that whole satire of that exact problem. So that's it's kind of a big issue and a sad one at that, because without those comics we would never have the great movies that we do have. They were Hollywood has proven time and again they can't come up with these original ideas, but those comic books are supposed to be the backbone of that, and it sucks for Marvel to be doing so bad, DC to be doing all right considering, but still not really that great. I mean, yeah, they're selling more than Marvel, but how much more are they actually selling, especially when they put out these movies? And some people do like the DC movies, but it's not driving them to the store to go get those comics either.
I mean, like comic wise, I can tell you that a lot of Marvel's comics, a lot of their characters that should be selling 30,000 issues a month are selling under 10,000.
Right.
DC's putting out comics like Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones, etc., and they're outselling stuff that should be like Captain Marvel should be totally outselling Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Thor should have been outselling Scooby-Doo. What else was there? She-Hulk. All these other kind of characters should have been outselling.
I know I want a good courtroom drama.
Hawkeye. Like Luke Cage. Why is Luke Cage doing so poorly? Because they're not pulling in quality writers. Just like DC is not putting out quality movies, and everybody sees the paint peeling off those movies. That's what's happening.
Okay, so go ahead and we can talk about what you've got in here in that first story for what we had planned, because that is kind of directly affected by what we're talking about.
Right. So Marvel's, I don't know if Papa Disney has put their foot down or something, but Marvel is absolutely cleaning house. They are cutting so many comics. Like Guardians of the Galaxy was cut, how much money has Guardians of the Galaxy movies made? That should be selling 20 or 30,000 copies. What is there to say? Otherwise, I mean, they're cleaning house. They've put in a new editor-in-chief, and I don't know if he's the one that's doing it, or if I don't know exactly how their structure is on deciding on what comics to cancel.
Right.
But and the best part is like people like a handful of journalists are like, these comics were great. Why are they canceling them? Because dude, you never went and bought them. You heard somebody else say they're great, or you saw who was writing it, and saw what their ideologies were. And I don't want to get political here, but that was what it was about. They were putting out America. Literally nothing was happening in that comic.
The box office take for Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 was $722 million.
Combined?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 333 for the first, 389 for the second.
Wow.
Yeah,
I thought it was a lot more than that.
No, most of the single movies usually bring in a third of what the big titles do.
Right, because the big titles always draw in somebody. Drawing something.
At least one piece of the bigger pie. Because if you got the Avengers, not everybody wants to go see Captain America or Iron Man, but they really want to see the Hulk, and that's their only way to see him. It's probably honestly what drove the Thor Ragnarok numbers up, because you haven't seen the Hulk in anything else but the Avengers movies and the original movie that nobody really liked, apparently. Which is a poor opinion anyways. I thought that was pretty good. But the, Thor Ragnarok, you've got people that actually really like Thor, and then those people that really like the Hulk, especially with the scenes that they put in the trailers. I feel like they probably put the best scenes that they could in that trailer to draw in the audiences, not just Thor or not just Hulk.
But, I mean, either so, even for Guardians of the Galaxy, especially Volume 1, to make almost $400 million.
Yeah.
Remember when the jokes first came out, it was like, well, DC was saying, oh, well, it's not time for a Wonder Woman movie yet. And Marvel was saying, here's a movie with a talking raccoon and a tree monster.
Right.
And they're absolutely beloved.
And I know And I know people were confused when they started seeing the articles about Luke Cage being canceled. They're like, "Oh no, they're canceling the first Marvel series." And I was like, "No, it's just the comics, guys." It just seems to not be picking up. And I mean, in one way I can understand, but in the other, it's like, once again, these are the basis for these shows and movies. There was only one. If you ever talk about that Eric Bana version, we won't be friends anymore, Adam. That movie was terrible.
Yeah, man, that dude just... Talk about a guy that didn't understand the character. I mean, Eric Bana, I think, looked really good for the Hulk.
Right.
But... Or at least Bruce Banner. But he...
You mean David Banner, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's a whole other thing.
Don't
get me started in that. But that movie, the comic book transition scenes, that absolutely took you out of the movie. It was unreal. Like I just couldn't get past them. Like, really, guys, you're putting this into the
into the mix, trying to get it, yeah, trying to make it as a transition. And you know, it kind of harkens back to, you remember Tank Girl?
Yeah, but they did that. Well, okay, with Tank Girl, they actually forgot to film those scenes.
I know.
So that was a little different.
I know, but still, that's kind of like what they were harkening back to. Oh,
yeah,
man. I haven't watched that in a long time.
I mean, it's still a pretty okay movie.
Yeah.
So,
albeit cheesy.
Yeah.
So
I've already lost my point. What were we talking about?
We were talking about the movies or the comics being canceled.
Yeah. So they get canceled, and the thing is, when the Luke Cage thing came out, remember we talked about the character designs, and I was like, oh, that outfit's kind of neat, and
yeah,
things like that. So there was positive talk about it.
Yeah, and it just didn't take off, and the big problem it's been cited is the boring characters, forced or unwanted changes on beloved established characters, and telling stupid, boring plots. Right. Some of these sound like your opinions.
There's no real conflict for them, because, like, the Iceman comic, for example, it's like, okay, well, he's in a fight, and he's completely casual about it. Yeah, well, Iceman's kind of flippant in battles and stuff, but like 99% of the comic was him and dating. This because, of course, they changed Iceman into a gay man.
Right.
So it was like 99% him either in fights talking about his new gay relationship with the first gay guy he meets, which, you know, I have gay friends. They don't do that, you know?
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, immediately moving into him after making out with him, or moving in with him across the country. It's like, what? Like, no, even heterosexual relationships aren't like this.
Yeah.
Like, have you met, it's like, it's not even like, have you met somebody of a different preference? It's like, have you ever met another human being? Have you ever been in a relationship? Yeah. Like, nothing about this makes sense. It was almost like a insulting parody of a homosexual person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and America Chavez was an insult to Latino people.
Well, here's the thing with her is, I don't know why they kept trying to force her to be like, oh, this Latino character, when we have legitimate Latino characters that could desperately use a comic.
Right.
They could carry a comic.
Right.
This was an alien, an extra-dimensional alien that came to Earth, flew around the planet, and was like, oh, I'm going to identify as these people. And so now she starts speaking really bad, broken English. Oh, not broken English, but like messed up, like high school Spanish.
Oh, God.
You know, and the thing is, the person that's writing her is supposed to be a Latina person, and she doesn't even know how to do it.
Right. And the other thing that's fueled the problems with the comics, and maybe not fueled as much as a result of, But the past couple of weeks and months, we've had a lot of people either leaving or being fired from their positions at both DC and Marvel. Um,
Well, Bendis is leaving. We know that. Which...
Yeah, Bendis is going. I know you've got Slott on here. I don't know if you want to hold off and wait for that.
Well, no, we're going to talk. So Dan Slott is finally leaving Amazing Spider-Man in March, which, my God, finally he's leaving. His stories, like ever since Ends of the Earth, have just been awful. His, and some people like it, a lot of people like it, but his Superior Spider-Man was stupid. It was everybody carried the idiot ball in that comic, and for not necessarily an example, but a definition of the idiot ball is like when, in order to make your plot move forward, all of you have to write your normally smart characters into idiots.
Right.
So they're carrying the idiot ball, so to speak.
Right.
So how can people and people keep trying to say, well, he had all of Peter's memories. Yeah, but he wasn't acting like Peter Parker. And there's been other people that have pretended to be Peter Parker and couldn't pull it off. The Chameleon, who can mimic just about anybody. We've had clones of Peter show up before. We've had other characters have their minds swapped. Like Captain America, that's happened to Captain America a couple of times, I'm sure. How did none of these people figure this out sooner?
Right.
The moment he first had that date with Mary Jane, and all the Spock did was stare at her cleavage, and kept saying like inconceivable, and the die is cast and all that stupid crap. They should have immediately said, Mary Jane should have immediately got up and be like, listen, I know you're not Peter Parker. You're most likely one of his enemies. I'm leaving, and I'm going to go call the Avengers.
Right. That would have been a smart move.
And the other thing, real quick, is they keep saying, "Oh, well, Otto changed his life around. He's so much smarter than Peter." Did you not read Ends of the Earth or Ends of Earth when Otto literally had to steal the tech that Peter Parker had invented in order to pull off his plans? And Peter pointed out at the end of it how stupid it was and how easily he shut everything down.
Right.
Once he realized that it was his tech, just repurposed. Like. And another thing, Peter Parker was literally being beaten to death at the end of that, and managed to figure out the math was incorrect. How is Otto smarter than Peter? No, he's not. And Otto Octavius is insane. God, it was just a stupid story arc. God, I cannot stand idiot plots like that should have been avoided. That's been done before. Now, there's certain movies that like idiot plots can work for. But that was not a story that could do it. Sorry, that was a...
No, you're fine. You're fine.
New Year's resolution, less rants.
The Thanos creator is also taken off from Marvel. Jim Starlin. Yes,
so that's crazy. Jim Starlin was running like a story about Thanos. Found out that it was almost like this other story that was about to get published, and they kind of like treated him like crap. And so he just walked from, you lost, like your movie with Thanos is about to come out, and you're losing the creator of it.
Right.
Not only that, but he points out, he's like, I've gotten paid more for my character KG Beast for that appearance in the DC movies more than I've gotten paid for Thanos appearing.
That's rough.
Yeah, that's rough. It's like, and I don't understand what Marvel's thinking or the lack of thinking. Not only that, but a lot of their personnel on like Twitter and stuff are being very, very unprofessional, even for writers, even for comic book writers. I mean, I can go back to Dan Slott where he literally stole somebody's identity to pretend to be him online to make everybody hate him, and the guy's wife had to beg Slott to come out and tell people that because he was ruining his life. He had his Twitter followers attack a woman that read a wiki article, and she was like, "Oh, well, I read this thing about Superior Spider-Man. It didn't sound very good."
Right.
And he had them attack her. No, like actual criticism or calling Slott an idiot or anything. She just said that does not sound like a good comic,
The
and he had them attack her.
the bravery of people online.
I'm telling you.
So I think that's, I mean, and that's just to name a few. We've gone through over the past year of a number of people that have parted ways, not just with Marvel but also with DC. Whether it just became unfriendly, or they were being treated harshly, or they didn't like the direction that the studios wanted to take the characters. And to a point, I mean, you would hope that these people, especially a creator of a character like Jim Starlin, would have the ability to write how he wanted to write, but instead you have, it's kind of like the movie studios and how they like to put their hands in things and mess it around and say no, it needs to be like this. I understand to a certain point, but at the same time, it's like, if the guy's creating something that's not inflammatory, then why are you giving him problems in the first place? You need to drive sales, not drive them into the ground, you know. So, it's sad to see, but unfortunately, I guess it's one of those things. And I know they don't count the sales of the subscription things, but I don't think those are boosting the sales much more, anyways. So, especially when you can't really track. It's kind of like when Netflix puts something out, they hope that all the subscribers that they've drawn in are because they put out that one program, or they hope that the subscribers that they've maintained is because of they've added that show, and not just because, oh, I forgot to cancel my subscription. So it's kind of hard to gauge, and that's why I understand to some point the Hulu and Netflix thing. What is it? Is it Marvel's? Is it Comixology? Is that their program?
Like for counting distribution, there's Diamond, I think.
They're digital stuff.
Oh yeah, I think
it's
so.
Comixology. I think DC has another one too. So it's hard to gauge what's driving those sales. On top of that, they're getting a steal compared to what those cover costs are on the stand. So to a certain point, the decline is attributed to not only poor writing but also poor directing and poor capitalization on the things that are going on right now. There's, like we said, there's so many movies that are coming out that should be driving sales, and they're just not doing it. So, I think that's all we got for that. Yeah, are we good on that?
That's enough, because that's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
There was some. I bought like a ton of new comics this year, but I've been reading books, or trying to read books.
Right.
At least I haven't been able to get into them. So I'm sure that I could point out some good comics, like the Metal Madness or whatever that's going on in DC right now seems to be pretty good. It's crazy. And by the way, let's just point this out because I've seen a bunch of articles about it. Batman does not have a Infinity Gauntlet. I don't know what idiots on these comics journalist sites that keep saying this. It is a gauntlet he made with different types of kryptonite in there. Why would you compare that? Because it's multicolored?
Yeah, that's it. Because it has colored stones in it, and it's different.
Oh my god, But hey, he calls it the 5-finger death punch.
That's awesome. I think what I have in my hands is one of my favorite gifts, though I haven't cracked it open yet. Other than the foreword, which is pretty good, which was written by the introduction written by Dr. Ken Monshine, but it's H.P. Lovecraft's Tales of Horror.
Hold it higher. There you go.
I'm looking at the camera that's actually showing people.
Oh, well, I want to see it too.
See?
I know you sent me pictures.
It's nice and thick, and it's gold leaf on the edge. Mm-hmm. Isn't that nice?
Yes.
The one sad thing that I was reading through was I didn't know that H.P. Lovecraft was like really, really super racist. But apparently it didn't really leak too much into his work. There's one story that doesn't get included and is not in that set that it really shined, but otherwise it's pretty subdued for the most part.
Well, he had a general fear of the unknown and knowing different people. If you read about his childhood,
and he wrote books about it.
Yeah, like, you know, he lived in like the Industrial Revolution era, or like to the tail end of it, where all these new inventions were coming out, and the way of the world was changing radically.
Yeah. Right.
While everybody else was embracing it, he was terrified of it.
Right.
So he had this strange mindset on just different people. Listen, he panicked when he found out like one of his relatives was half Polish.
Is that a problem?
Yes. No, I'm just saying like this is the kind of guy he was. He was terrified of like that kind of stuff. So it wasn't just like I don't know. And it doesn't help. Like when you read about his childhood, if you see photos of him,
right,
he looks like a fairly attractive man.
Right.
You know, but he was always raised by his wife or his mother, and she constantly called him ugly and hideous and stuff. So he didn't have a very pleasant childhood.
Great.
So I'm, you know, and again, this is like the late 1800s of the guy.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So I don't understand why he, you know, people are now trying to, like, they were trying to steal awards from him posthumously.
Yeah.
When he helped build this entire cosmology.
Right.
And, you know, basically helped influence horror fiction at every conceivable level. But now they're like, oh, well, he had a cat named N-Word Man. For real. And it's in some of the books.
Oh, my God.
Because he did love cats. So that was like a good thing. In a weird way. It's like the cats are very heroic in the books.
Yeah. I think one of the first or second stories in the book had something to do with cats. It was really weird that the third one, The Cats of Ulthar.
Yeah. Does it have the color Out of Space in there?
What is it called?
The color Out of Space?
Yeah, it's
out
in
of
here.
The space?
Yeah, it's in here.
Oh, that's a good one. That's good.
So I can't wait to get through and read this. There's plenty in there, and it's a thick book. So, all right, but anyways,
that's probably my favorite one. Either that or Rats in the Walls.
That's in there as well. So I'll let you know. All right, let's go ahead and move into the movies. We got a couple of things to discuss there. Hey, are we gonna have to change that? Does that become isn't that the Fox Searchlight? Or which one is that? Is that gonna change? Is that gonna go away?
I mean,
maybe we keep it as historical.
They closed the Fox studio thing.
I don't see. I don't think they're gonna change much. And we might as well say that's gonna be the first thing we talk about. Is the biggest deal in movies and TV was Disney acquiring 21st Century Fox Entertainment. So all of their TV and movie stuff. One of the things I found out too, and I didn't know this, it's gonna take 12 to 18 months for the deal to be completely finished, which means they can start planning, but the deal's not completed yet.
Right.
Completely completed.
The government still has to review it too, right? Or did it?
I don't think they need. I think they'll do their due diligence, but at this point, it only puts them at 27% of the movie industry, which you're not close enough to the at least 50% to trigger the monopoly issues. So we talked about it a little bit, but this is like a huge move. And another thing I found out. Disney now owns 66% of Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
So I
thought we mentioned that.
I know we mentioned it, but I found out that it's a total of 66%. And one of the other shows I was listening to discussed it and mentioned that it would probably be they would probably keep it focused on live TV and maybe originals. and put the bulk of everything else, backlogs and stuff like that, on the Disney streaming. Which, I know it's Disney, and it has the name Disney on it, but I think they need to get over it. I don't think that they should keep it to just the PG stuff. They need to put everything on there. There's ways you can protect children from seeing that stuff. You
mean like
throw on the Netflix
the
Kids
stuff
thing
from the View Askew universe? What was it?
Everything. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They own that now.
Yeah.
They own distribution rights for that. They don't necessarily own, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that are like that and that's been coming up in arguments and online and all that. They don't actually own a lot of the stuff. They own the distribution rights for certain things. So, one of those was Fantastic Four. Did you know that?
Like the show or the movies?
The movies. They only own distribution rights for the movies.
Yeah, because a German company actually owns it.
Yeah, a German company owns it, and there's no there are some rumbling, but there's mention that Disney's already been working with them to try and come up with a deal to further include them into the MCU. So they're already doing their due diligence.
It's Disney. If you don't strike a deal with them, they'll just buy your company.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah,
so
they can always just buy them.
one German production company, I highly doubt, is going to put them more than 29%.
Here's the drop in the ocean.
Yes, exactly.
So it was a huge deal, a huge landmark deal, one that we've always hoped for and now finally got, and it's exciting, to say the least. There's so many different things that could happen going forward. Your possibility of the Fantastic Four, the almost signed, sealed, and delivered guarantee of the X-Men becoming part of the MCU. You know what they said on the show that I was listening to, and it was the morning stream. They were talking about it with Steven Schleicher from Major Spoilers. Mm-hmm. You know, the guy that does Critical Hit. He said, "Wouldn't it be neat?" Or no, it was a different show. But anyways, they said wouldn't it be neat if they introduced Phase 4 as a logo, and it was the Fantastic Four.
That would be absolutely brilliant.
That would be pretty neat. But
so this is what I demand. I'm sorry for cutting you.
No, that's fine. That's the other part. We need to make sure that stuff's covered.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just real quick, just one thing. I absolutely demand that we get a Human Torch and Spider-Man crossover movie. Just them. And it doesn't have to be like, a massive saving. I want it like a buddy cop movie.
Kind of like what they did with Thor and Hulk.
Even more so than that.
No, that's fine. I'm just saying, a generalization.
Yeah. More like Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, in a way. Maybe.
That's not a buddy cop movie. That's a stoner movie.
Yeah, well, okay. Like just two buddies that get into this really, or I mean, I guess it's still stoner, but like, dude, where's your car? You know?
Yeah.
Like, these two just get into this really absurd, surreal adventure.
Oh, great. I can see it now. You said the Human Torch, right?
Right, yeah.
Is that something that they did in the comics, or?
Yeah, they actually hung out a lot. They were pretty close to best friends in the comics. When Spider-Man lost his, there's two stories I'd like. Well, they're not going to be able to do this because Sony's about to screw it up with Venom. But when Spider-Man lost the black suit because it was a symbiote, right?
Right.
He was at the Fantastic Four's place because they were analyzing it, and he had to get a new costume. So somehow the Human Torch managed to get him in not only one of the old Fantastic Four costumes, but to wear a paper bag over his head. And he's like, "Introducing the amazing Bag Man." And it's just like moments like that is where they really work together. There's another story. It happens in the Untold Tales of Spider-Man where there's this character called the Wizard. He's like this techno genius.
Okay.
He specifically goes after the Human Torch because before the Fantastic Four appeared, he was like the big guy on campus, so to speak, in New York. And then the Fantastic Four show up, Reed's completely curb stomping him. So he becomes a villain because he wants to prove that he's better than them. And so the Human Torch obviously isn't that smart of a guy. But he teams up with Spider-Man. Spider-Man just happens upon the scene. And Spider-Man constantly shows him how to beat him. Like, there's one where there's a force field up, right? And the generator is inside the force field generator, right? And Spider-Man's sitting on it, and he's like, hey, wait, look at those people. They can obviously get air. They don't look cold, so heat and oxygen are still going through this force field. So just shoot your heat at the generator, and it's going to eventually melt, even if your flames don't get through.
Oh my God.
Stuff like that. And at the very end, they found where the Wizard's at. They're taking him away, and Spider-Man's looking at the Wizard's computer, and he's like, "Hey, what was your plan for this place?" Because he was like giving everything in riddles and questions.
Right.
And the Wizard was like, "There's no way you could figure that out this fast." He's like, "Well, I just did." And the Human Torch, like later on, was like, "How did you figure that out?" He's like, "Because I'm a genius." And Spider-Man swings away. He's like, "I was totally not going to tell him that we have a test on that place tomorrow, and I've just been studying about it." So he just happened to have that information at random.
Oh, I'm dying. Sorry.
Anyways, I like that kind of story where it's like not any kind of major saving the world. Like the Wizard was even trying to hurt people. Well, I think later on he started trying to hurt people because he was just getting so desperate. But just something like that, I would love to see.
I still need to see The Amazing Spider-Man.
You mean Spider-Man Homecoming?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
it was pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't gotten around to that. I know Blade Runner just hit digital too, but that's not related. So we talk about that, and we talk about the Disney deal, but on the other end of the comic book movie spectrum is the DC universe, extended universe, right? Isn't that what it is? DCEU.
The DCEU, yep.
So there's been a lot of talk. I don't know if anybody has heard about the movie The Justice League, but it didn't do too well. As most predicted, and even worse is that first trailer that we saw earlier in the year really got me hyped up, and I really wanted to see it. But man, as it is a DC film, and the drama continues around it, you lose your main director to another director who, man, I hated that frickin' Joss Whedon badmouthed Marvel as he was going through doing the Avengers and everything, but it wasn't Marvel. It was Joss Whedon, because apparently everything he touches turns to garbage now. Because that movie was terrible from everything I heard. It had more holes in the plot than. Do you remember that scene in Batman and Robin? Holy rusted metal Batman?
Yeah.
It's rusted metal and it's full of holes.
I actually do like that scene in Batman and Robin. Because Batman's just like, what?
Yeah, right?
It's all holy and metal and rusted.
But the point is that movie is plot hole ridden completely. Yeah. And lately, and we talked about it 2 weeks ago, but even more has come out because you've put stuff in the note here. Variety's reporting that the first casualty of the restructuring will be John Berg, who was ushered in along with Jeff Johns to oversee the DCEU in the wake of the perceived failure of Suicide Squad and BVS. Variety states he will leave his advisory role but remain as a producer. Johns will stay as chief creative officer with DC Entertainment, but his work on the films could be reduced to an advisory role, which, as we've seen, means he's out the door next. They just can't. They can't. I don't understand why. Yeah, I mean, you speak so highly of the DC animated films, and one of my favorite ones, and it just had an anniversary, right? Batman: Mask of the Phantasm's been out for how many years now? Is it 25 or 30?
It's got to be about 20 years, I think. It can't be 25. I'm not that old.
I just saw it scrolling through Facebook the other day.
I refuse to say that I'm that old.
But they constantly knock it out of the park with the animated stuff, but they just can't pull off the real life characterization of these characters.
Well, because they don't go for the characters. Like Batman killing people, and I understand they want to do something different. Yeah, I can totally respect that. But people aren't going to, they don't want to go to this film to see an alternate interpretation of Batman.
No,
they don't want to go see an alternate interpretation of Superman. They want to go see their characters.
So
they grew up with.
Is that what Marvel's doing better? I mean, Iron Man is such a B or C character back in the day as far as comics, but they kind of nailed him and made a character like that a superstar.
Yeah, so that's what was happening, and most people can tell you, before the first Iron Man movie came out, Iron Man was on the way out. He was like a C-list character. He was struggling to keep a comic going. He was constantly getting one-up by people. And during the Civil War section of the comics, he had a team of people building his suits with him, right?
Right.
And some of them were smarter than him and would shut down his armors and his fail-safes. It's just things like that. And now the movie came out, and Robert Downey Jr. absolutely knocked it out of the park. And so they ramped Tony Stark up. He's never been this brilliant. But now he is in the comics.
And that's the thing too, is it's Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, but also Robert Downey Jr.'s adherence to the character.
Right. Yes, he absolutely stays true to the character. I don't know if he read the character a lot or what, but it was just like...
Or the good direction, you know what I mean?
Or good direction, or the good writing, or Kevin Feige, or however you pronounce his name. I'm stepping in and being like, okay, these are the character traits of Tony Stark. Or if somebody pulled Robert Downey Jr. to the side, be like, you remember how you were in the 90s? Kind of like that, just at a genius level of intellect. And I think that's what he can pull from, is because he's lived that guy's life. Who's lived Superman's life? Raise your hand if you've had your home world exploded. Now you're an alien demigod on another planet. And that's kind of hard to. That's who's an immortal goddess. Amazon trained as a warrior from birth.
Yeah, I can't speak for that one either.
Yeah. The closest, like, okay, well.
Who was trained by Princess Buttercup?
Well, I mean, the Flash could have arguably been their realest character. They're most grounded in a way. But he's
the applause light.
They turned him into a Peter Parker wannabe.
He's not a Peter Parker wannabe. He's an applause light. On the old stage shows, when they wanted applause, they'd have that big sign that would flash and say applause. Yeah, that's what he is now. And I mean, he's made of electricity, so, right?
He's not made of electricity. That's not how his powers work. It's Speed Force. It just manifests to look like electricity to our eyes. God, people are like that. Well, lightning is blue. Yeah, guess what? It's not lightning. It's Speed Force. It's concentrated Speed Force. You are not from another planet, Jay.
No. I think he was raising his hand because he's an Amazonian warrior.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You are gorgeous. Oh, my goodness.
That's what I was about to say. I was about to say he wasn't specific enough, so we're going to go with B.
Yeah.
So they have constantly, at every turn, basically sabotaged themselves, and obviously didn't keep their actors under control. I saw some comment about Heath Ledger and how he really embodied the character of the Joker when he was the Joker. And nobody else has come close to it in physical manifestation, because I will tell you, I have to say probably my favorite Joker at this point in my life is Mark Hamill. But
oh yeah, now that visually and physically, it's obviously Ledger. I think maybe Jack Nicholson. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's a good Joker too.
That and that Joker though was written a little differently,
Well. That's the thing about the Joker. He's a lot more malleable as a character.
Right.
That's even part of its canon. It's like some days he's sneaking in his city hall and putting whoopee cushions under everybody's chairs, and that's his big crime for the day. The next day he's sneaking in whoopee cushions, but they release a gas that causes people to claw their eyes out while laughing hysterically.
Oh, you know what? I think that was what it was it was somebody had quoted what Mark Hamill had said about Heath Ledger, and as far as how he was, played the Joker and all that. Mm-hmm. And it said something about I think he made some comment to be, one of the best method actors that he's ever seen out there. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know, what about that, what's his face? I don't even remember what his name is. Jared Leto. I heard he was a pretty edgy method actor as Joker. He'd probably be upset if he heard you were talking such wonderful things about Heath Ledger as the Joker.
Well, Jared Leto didn't get the Joker, I don't think. He was like, the Joker, there's a scene in the comics, right, where the Joker pulls up someplace, and there's just this random kid sitting outside of a building. He's like, hey, watch my car, make sure it doesn't get messed up. And the guy's like, you're the Joker. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'll give you $20. Watch my car. I'm going to step in here. He's like, but you're going to kill me. He's like, no, I only kill when it's funny. And it's not funny right now. And just walks off. And completely doesn't mess with the guy. I don't know if he ever gave him his money or not. But that's who the Joker is. The Joker has to be funny from his perspective. Like, he tells bad jokes and laughs at them. Nobody laughs at them. Not Heath Ledger's.
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto's didn't do that.
Yeah.
He didn't do things like that. Heath Ledger did tell a bunch of bad jokes in that movie, and he laughed at them. It wasn't that often, but it was enough to establish the character.
But he sent his co-hosts or co-stars used condoms and mice and rats.
Rats and hearts full of bullet casings or whatever. And vipers. That's not that. I mean, that's just annoying.
Yeah.
There's a way of being like a method actor on set when you're rehearsing and doing the scenes, but just doing that random stuff. That's like the internet thing. Lowe's so random type of humor, and that's not the Joker.
So the report suggests that Warner Brothers are reportedly planning to either announce a replacement for Johns and Berg in January, or perhaps more concerning is the idea that they'll absorb control of the DC films and the studio's larger filmmaking operations, and that might not be a great idea. The article goes on to suggest other contributing factors towards the reshuffle. That in all likelihood, Zack Snyder will not direct another DC movie, which
they're kind of mean to him, and I wouldn't blame him.
And they'd noticed that the Man of Steel director was persisting with an overtly dark tone.
Well, yeah, I mean, they didn't get that after the first two movies, and then they what else was there? And to absorb the movie more into the studio itself and give more like executive control to a board,
right?
And that sounds like a bad idea because you're going to get something that has no energy to it, no life, no personality.
Right.
I mean, these were like dark, humorless movies, but they at least had their own thing to them.
Right. And I don't know. There's no way that they could easily reboot this either. And I don't think doing a whole Flashpoint thing would be the right thing either, because Flash is one of the weaker parts, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe under his own movie he would be able to flesh it out a little bit more. But I don't know. They just rushed into it too much.
Right. I don't know. I don't have all the solutions of what to, how to fix it.
Well, they're stuck in a hard place now. They're damned if they do, damned if they don't. Either they reboot their cinematic universe and look like doofuses until the movie comes out and justifies the reboot, or they continue on and they keep getting mocked and just force them to get better and do like the comics, just forget the previous movies.
And then
but they've already spent their big one about sacrificing Superman. You don't sacrifice Superman in the second movie.
And then they're what, 20 years behind Marvel at that point. So.
Oh yeah, at least.
At least. All right. I think that's all we'll cover on that. We've talked enough at great lengths on that. I think we need to hit the games. What did we talk about for that? Let me hit this and then we'll get into that. All right. In the video game world for the past year, really not a well. I guess we had a high point in the beginning and a super low point at the end of the year. The high point being the Nintendo Switch and the revival of Nintendo as far as a video game company is concerned, especially one that publishes its own system and games. They had a huge launch in March where they couldn't keep up with sales of the systems because of the production, and at the same time sold more copies of Legend of Zelda before there were enough systems out on the street for the game. People were paranoid that they wouldn't be able to get their favorite game when they got their system, and the problem was vice versa. They had their favorite game and couldn't play it because they didn't have a system. And I mean, it's kind of an embarrassment of riches, but at the same time, trying to keep up with that. Throughout the year, they've struggled, but they've been slowly ramping up production and are now at a point where, as of December, they have sold, what was it? Is it 10 million consoles now?
Oh, well, they've beaten out sales on pretty much everyone else at this point.
Right. Including themselves with the Wii U. The Wii U, its lifetime sales in 4 years of the system's lifespan is about 13 million. 13.6, I think, was the exact. But the Nintendo Switch is now at... let's take a look really quick. Milestone, here we go. 2 days ago. Yeah, sold 10 million already, and I think they're on predictions to sell, I believe, 13 million by March when it marks the year, which is awesome. That's huge. Nintendo's back on top as far as their game is concerned. They've had a long slide with the Wii and the Wii U, where it was innovative to a point and enough for everybody to take some of their ideas, like the PlayStation. What the hell is that thing called? Their wireless handsets. I don't even know. The
Wiimote? The Wii U mote?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the PlayStation thing.
Oh.
The PlayStation Move, or whatever the hell it is.
Oh, yeah, that was
controllers.
Their lollipop?
Yeah, their lollipops. Which were, as much as they said weren't a ripoff of the Wii U, or exactly that. And then the Wii, and then the Wii U release of the gamepad thing is just absolutely terrible. I hated playing with it. I wished that I could have played, and I probably would have actually played Breath of the Wild a long time ago, except for the fact that it's terrible to play with that controller.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I absolutely agree with you that I don't like playing the Wii U on the controller. Lately, with my daughter, I have to have like Sesame Street on the big TV, so it actually has come in use on having it on the gamepad. But it's different playing Super Mario World from the '90s on that, and them trying to play Breath of the Wild on that. You know what I'm saying? It's completely not designed for such a small screen.
Yeah, and it's it's probably a 4:3 screen instead of being a 16:9. So you don't get the good effects of having a wide screen with that little screen on the tablet.
Yeah. The one thing that they've tried all these wacky designs and everything, but they've never really lost sight that they're supposed to be a gaming company and a gaming console, as opposed to these other systems that keep coming out. They're like, oh, you can do this, 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 and this on this. I'm like, yeah, that's fine,
right?
But I want to play video games on it,
right? And I can say from my standpoint with playing the Switch, they have still incorporated the motion controls on those controllers pretty well. There's some neat things you can do that are basically quick gesture shortcuts to be able to like throw Mario's hat in Mario Odyssey. It feels natural to do it when you're actually holding the two controllers in your hands, vice using the pad itself. And I actually kind of prefer actually playing on the pad, though. Playing on the connector that they give you to slide the two controllers on, that basically feels like you're holding the Xbox controller with the wings.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually nice for playing on the TV. But otherwise, when you're playing with it, if you just got the controllers on there, it's not that bad. I can't see myself playing it for hours on end because it feels a little cramped for my bigger hands. But
yeah,
it helps limit the amount of time I spend on it anyway. So.
Yeah, well, I still got the 3DS. Probably still takes all of my time. One, because I can port it around a lot easier, and it's a little more durable when some wandering child gets a hold of it when I'm not paying attention.
That sounds a lot like responsibility problems, not.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to duct tape her to the walls, but she still chews out of that. I mean, maybe once we get past this teething stage, then I could just duct tape her to the wall, right? Is that how it works?
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. But so, yeah, in fact, I'm actually playing Ultra Moon on my 3DS right now.
How is that?
It takes forever for you to get through. Like, they keep extending, like, the tutorial stage more and more and more. Like, you have, like, 3 different battles, and you slowly get these, and they just hand you stuff. Like, you get great balls almost right out the gate.
Right.
They keep making it too easy at the beginning. When and I went back and I played Gold and Silver, Red and Blue recently, where they're like, "Here's a Pokemon, good luck."
Yeah.
They just hand you the Pokeballs, they hand you the great balls, everything. They hand you money right out the gate, and then they make you go to one. You have like 2 rival battles right out the gate. And you absolutely dominate the dude because he gets the type your main is weak to.
Right.
And then you go to a training school, and if you level up like I do, where I consistently try to keep my Pokemon 5 or 6 levels higher than wherever area I'm in, it's just an absolute breeze.
Right.
And I highly recommend getting it before January 18th because you get the event Pokemon, the Rockruff, and he comes with Happy Hour. If you use that in a trainer battle, you get more money.
Nice.
If you have Amulet Coin attached to it, you get even more money. And then if you use the Z move to amplify his Happy Hour or whatever, you get even more money. So you can absolutely break the game on money.
That can only buy you Pokeballs anyways, so and revives.
Yeah,
the revives.
Revive, full restores, and Ultra Balls.
Right.
That's pretty much everything that I keep.
Right.
By the end of the game, at least.
Yeah. So, that'll be your last game on the 3DS, by the way. Last main game.
Yeah, but, I mean, there's other games coming out. I still gotta go back and finish Fantasy Life and stuff like that.
Oh, man. I haven't played that in a while. That's a good one.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it lately.
That's the thing is Nintendo's done pretty well for themselves, even despite the Wii U and all that. The DS and the 3DS are actually big hits as far as portables are concerned, and I still think that going forward the Switch is going to be where they go to. In the last earnings call that Kimishima sat through, he did mention that they feel like, not he personally, but they feel like as a company that the Switch and the 3DS are coinciding perfectly where they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means going forward. That could mean that they continue the 3DS development, but that's not completely dependent on them. That's also dependent on what what the developers want to do for the games. I don't think. I'm kind of wondering because Monster Hunter's kind of in flux. Monster Hunter Double Cross isn't getting a U.S. release, a Western release. It's only in Japanese for the Switch. That could be bad because that could mean I won't eventually see a future title, but at the same time, Monster Hunter World's coming out on the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, and the PC. So I'll get it somewhere else, but I feel like that game was built for the travel consoles, which I mean, like I've said, the Switch is kind of like that. You know, it'll do that, and eventually I think we'll evolve to where we'll have nothing but the Switch. So.
Or, I mean, maybe not necessarily the Switch, but whatever the next iteration is. Maybe that's what they've been trying to do is push the two consoles together to where they're like, okay, well, this main thing is now both your portable and your home console.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like maybe that's what they're trying to say is like they're in line. People are understanding the Switch. They understand the 3DS. Now we could implement Phase 4 or whatever, where phase whatever that they're wanting to do.
Right.
That's kind of what I feel like he's saying there because.
And it's a big boost too because a lot of the developers have come out and said, "Hey, we're gonna get around to developing for the Switch finally," and that's what Nintendo needs. They need that third party support.
That third party support will absolutely make or break. Absolutely make or break you.
Yeah, for sure. And the good news is like Level 5 has come out and said they're going to do that. And they're the ones that made the yokai games, Fantasy Life, and not to mention plenty of others.
Wait, what else did they make? They made a game that I loved. Hold on.
It's Fantasy Life, right?
But besides that one,
yeah,
they made another game. Oh well, they made a ton of games. They made a Dragon Quest game. They made Professor Layton games. Any of these. Okay, the Ni no Kuni games they've made as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those. Yeah,
there feels like there's one that I'm missing off. Like they didn't do. I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking of. Maybe I was thinking Shovel Knight or Shantae, but that's way forward or level way or something like that. I don't know. But no, they have a very solid history in games. So having them on your side would definitely work to your favor.
All right, and finally the last big deal in gaming this year has been the DLC fiasco and the microtransactions crap. And with EA at the forefront and apparently Bungie shortly behind with the crap that they're pulling with the Eververse and Destiny 2. A lot of complaints about that again this past week because apparently somebody did some research on shaders. Remember we talked about the shaders on Destiny 2 and how a lot of them are in the or they're all one-time use and all that. Well, apparently 22 out of the 30-some people that, or not people, the 30-some, what do you call it? The shaders are behind microtransactions in the Eververse. That's 2/3, basically, of those shaders that you have to pay real money for. Not that that's really a big deal, but a lot of their stuff is slowly being gated behind that. When they first released the first expansion, they basically locked people out of being able to do some of the higher level stuff that you would be able to do at max level before the expansion came out, which kind of was trying to force people into purchasing the DLC, and that's not right. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, you're absolutely right, and I'm kind of glad this has finally happened because it's getting troublesome. These day one DLCs, these day one, freaking whatever,
Right.
Expansions coming out, stuff that could easily have been implemented in the game. I was cool with DLCs when they were like, okay, well, 3 or 4 months later, we had run out of funding. We waited for the game to sell. We just didn't have time to fully implement this into the game to begin with. But 3 or 4 months later, we finally managed to tweak it a little bit. Here's something extra. I'm cool with that.
Right.
But them again, Evolve really, really annoyed me about it. EA constantly has annoyed me about it because it's more and more stuff, and this loot box stuff has been it just turns me off on certain games. It's the random number guide doesn't doesn't reward you based on talent. It's like, okay, if Jeremy and I are playing the game and he absolutely dominates me, but hey, because I opened this random loot box, I got the better equipment.
Right.
What how does that reward him? And he got a stick.
Right.
How is that fair to him? He got a cutscene at the end where it shows a highlight reel of one dominating shot. Okay, but I still got the weapon that he's been spending 6 months on, and I got it within 2 hours.
Right. Just because you open up a bunch of boxes.
Yeah. Or hey, guess what? I got a bonus with my paycheck, so I'm going to just buy all the Top Gear equipment that he's had to grind for 6 months, and now I'm going to just come and I'm going to completely destroy him in his game.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it's not about talent; it's about whose numbers are higher.
Yeah, and EA, they tried to cover their bases and do what they needed to do to try and placate, which they said they were removing the loot boxes for the
temporarily
for the
they were temporarily removing them.
Yeah.
So people would forget because that's what we do, and then they were going to implement them back, and nobody was going to say anything. They were going to say, "Hey, we gave you 3 or 4 months without them."
Yeah.
The best was like, okay, we heard you. We're lowering the cost of these characters by 75%.
Right.
Oh, there's a little asterisk by it. We're also lowering the reward amount you get by 75%. So guess what? It equals the same amount of time that you have to put in.
Right.
God, I've pretty much just, and I'm a hard one to get to buy multiplayer games to begin with.
Right. So
now it's like even less of a reason for me to, or a motivator for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, not to mention the guy that I play with gets the game, convinces me to get it, and then he moves on to another game, or goes back to another game.
Shut up.
And I'm playing by myself. Who is that, Jeremy?
That's a dig at me, isn't it?
That would be a dig at you.
Yeah, well, I got too many games to play.
Tell me about it. And these sales keep happening. Oh, you can buy this game for $1.
Yeah. Hey, before the show, I bought the Stick of Truth so I can finally play it. So.
I need to buy the other one. And I'm just looking like all these games I've got, and I've only got first of all, I've got to get another terabyte hard drive so I can just download all these and just go through them. I think I got the Bard's Tale. When am I ever going to have time to play that?
Yeah,
because I've still got New Vegas and the Final Fantasy games to play,
and that's really what builds into that whole argument too, because you don't have time to play all these games and then have to dedicate what equivalent is what was it 3,000 hours or something like that to unlock everything.
Yeah,
in Battlefront 2.
2,600 hours to unlock everything in Battlefront 2. And now, and I don't like the government having to step in on stuff. I think less is more with them at times. But them stepping in and say, okay, enough is enough with these loot boxes, because every other week we have a news report saying, oh, a kid didn't know he spent $20,000 on a game because they made it where, like, you press a button, one button, and the credit card payments go through.
Right.
Or in FIFA, the kid spent $30,000 buying skins of characters for FIFA.
Yeah.
You know, and then they come out and try to defend themselves. Well, video games should be costing $70 or $80. Well, some parts of the world it already does, and people struggle to pay for them there. And two, this is a hobby.
Yeah.
I don't have to buy the newest games. I've got an entire Steam library here, 50 or 60 games. I've got a ton of retro games I can play. I've got good old games that I can play. I don't have to buy your new top of the line games. I can buy them a year later or 2 years later, or I can do like some people and just pirate them. I don't like doing it. I like to support people. If they've made something I enjoy, I do that with musicians when I can find your music online through legit means.
Hey, I don't like to keep feeding your freaking addictions, but you know that second South Park game is only $30 right now.
I know. I'm trying to be an adult. I am so hard. It's so hard. I'm trying to be an adult, and I'm like, I really want to play that game because I really enjoyed the first one.
Right.
But I don't need it.
I need to.
When am I going to have time to play it? When am I going to have time to play it?
Yeah, I can't wait to play the next. I can't wait to play that first one. I've heard so many great things.
I have 107 items in my wish list, and I'm adding another thing. Maybe I have 107 items in my wish list right now.
Maybe I'll have to cruise around there later on when I get money.
No, don't. That's like a punishment these days.
I still gotta send you Batman Arkham Knight.
I don't even want to play that.
Yeah, you do.
Send it to me.
It's so good.
No, it's not.
Good. All right. Well, why don't we wrap it up for the week?
For the year.
For the year. Oh my God, we won't see any of you till next year. Oh man, it's been a wild ride, and there's been a lot of great stories. And hopefully more to come.
Well, maybe not necessarily great stories, but stories we can rant and complain about.
Right.
I tell you how they should have done it, by golly.
Yeah. Armchair quarterbacking is so much easier when you're doing it from home.
Definitely is.
So
I'd totally be willing to herald a $30 million movie.
Right.
Running it to the ground.
Right.
$50 million, $100 million.
All right. Well, thanks for listening again, and thanks for all your support over the past year. And we look forward to seeing you guys again in the coming year and discussing all this great stuff with you. And like I said before on multiple shows before, I'm glad you guys have stopped by and are able to put in your input. And I hope that you guys can continue to do so, because it's always great to add to the conversation and distract Opu from his rants.
Yeah, I'm easily distractible.
Right.
I can't help it.
All right. Well, we'll forego the usual outputs. You know where to find us. ECG Podcast on Twitter, or ECG_podcast on Twitter. At our Facebook page, facebook.com. /ECG podcast, or at our email address, ecgpodcast@gmail.com. And Happy New Year, everyone. And I hope the year brings you more fortune and more cheaper video games.
Oh.
And apparently
more time to play the video games, and to read the video game or the books, and to watch the movies.
Right. All right. Well, we'll be back next week again with our normal show, and Opu promises it'll be great.
I promise that it will be a show.
There you go.
Confirm nor deny if it's going to be great.
All right, everyone. Until next week. Until next year. Stay geeky.